10,000 years ago, not one single human being on planet Earth had blue eyes. That gene didn't exist yet. It hadn't been born. And it's not the only thing about us that's changed fast. For decades, scientists taught something that sounds reasonable. Once humans built cities and cured diseases, evolution basically stopped needing us. A study of nearly 16,000 ancient human genomes just proved that idea completely backwards. Human evolution didn't slow down when we got civilized. It sped up by 10 to 100 times the normal pace. To understand why, we need the timeline. Modern humans reached Europe around 50,000 years ago. For tens of thousands of years after that, we lived in small bands, hunting and gathering, barely changing our environment at all. Then, 10,000 years ago, something broke that pattern. People in Europe started farming. They stopped moving. They settled down. And when you settle down and start farming, populations explode. More people means more babies, more mutations, more raw material for evolution to work with. This video is that story, how farming, disease, and migration turned human evolution into overdrive. The team behind this discovery, led by geneticist David Reich at Harvard, spent a decade industrializing ancient DNA. Robots extracted the DNA. Robots cleaned it. Robots prepared it for sequencing, turning what used to take years into an assembly line. Working with around 270 archaeologists, they pulled together nearly 16,000 ancient genomes from across Western Eurasia. That single study more than doubled the entire existing library of ancient human DNA. Nothing this size had ever been attempted. And in that mountain of data, they found 479 gene variants that had been strongly pushed for, or against, by natural selection. Beyond that, they flagged over 7,600 more locations in the genome that look like likely candidates, still waiting on follow-up. Here's the surprising part. Real selection only explained about 2% of all the genetic change they measured. Most change came from migration and random chance. But 2%, across 16,000 genomes and 10,000 years, is still enormous. As Reich put it, it was a faint signal, but a real one, and once they could isolate it, it told an incredible story. That story centers on one period above all others, the Bronze Age, roughly 5,000 years ago. This is when cattle herders from the Eurasian steppes surged into Europe, bringing the wheel, metal weapons, and entirely new ways of living. It's the moment the Stone Age ends and the Bronze Age begins. And genetically, it's when selection kicks into overdrive. Take the single most famous example, lactase persistence, the ability to digest milk as an adult. Almost every mammal on Earth loses that ability after weaning. Humans weren't supposed to keep it either. But once we started herding cattle, a rare mutation that let some adults keep digesting milk suddenly became a massive survival advantage. People who could drink milk got extra calories, extra protein, extra survival odds, and passed that gene on faster than everyone else. That single Bronze Age mutation is a big part of why so many people today can drink a glass of milk without any issue. Milk wasn't the only thing selection reshaped. Skin pigmentation genes shifted hard too, as populations moved north into lower sunlight. Lighter skin lets more sunlight through to make vitamin D, crucial in places where the sun barely shows itself for months. Diet-related genes changed too, variants called FADS1 and FADS2, which control how our bodies process fatty acids from new food sources. And density brought disease. Living packed together with livestock created brand new pressure from infections that hunter-gatherers rarely faced. One gene called TYK2, tied to tuberculosis resistance, shows up as a target of selection, a direct genetic fingerprint of the disease pressure of crowded living. Even a gene linked to hemochromatosis, a disorder of iron overload today, was once likely useful, possibly helping people survive iron-poor diets. Selection didn't stop at bodies. The data even shows signals tied to complex traits, including genetic predictors linked to cognitive performance and years of schooling. But strangely, that signal is strong in the Bronze Age and almost disappears in the last 2,000 years. Scientists still don't fully know why. What's stranger still, those same genetic predictors line up consistently even between populations as distant as Europeans and Chinese. That kind of cross-population consistency is exactly what tells researchers this isn't just statistical noise. Something real was happening. So why did all of this accelerate specifically once we became farmers? It comes down to two forces working together. First, more people. Farming supports far larger populations than hunting and gathering ever could, and more people means more new mutations appearing every generation. Second, a completely new environment. New diets, new diseases, new social structures. All of it created new problems for bodies to solve fast. More raw genetic material, plus stronger and stranger pressures to adapt to. That combination is the engine behind the acceleration. This isn't a brand new idea, either. Back in 2007, researcher John Hawkes and colleagues found hundreds of adaptive gene variants that had spread within just the last 40,000 years. That rate was already an order of magnitude faster than our deep evolutionary history, a full generation before this new study confirmed it with ancient DNA. One honest caveat. This newest, most detailed picture comes from West Eurasia specifically. It's not yet proof this pattern is universal. Reich himself says the next step is testing whether the same acceleration shows up in East Asia, East Africa, and the Americas. There's also a genuine mystery buried in the data. Several gene variants tied to disease risk today were clearly favored by selection in the past. We don't always know what ancient advantage they once provided. The trait that saved a Bronze Age farmer might be quietly working against us now, which brings us back to where we started. That blue-eyed gene, that milk-digesting gene, they aren't ancient at all. In the full 300,000-year story of our species, they appeared in the last blink of an eye and spread astonishingly fast. The real twist isn't that we evolved. It's that civilization, the very thing we assumed had frozen our biology, is what set it in motion. Farming didn't remove natural selection's grip on us. It handed selection a bigger population, stranger diets, denser cities, and new diseases to respond to. And the honest answer to "are we still evolving" isn't a maybe. It's a documented, measured, 479 variants yes. Every face in a crowd today carries a piece of that 10,000-year experiment. Farming, migration, disease, all written directly into our genes. We used to think evolution was something that happened to us a long time ago and then simply stopped. It didn't stop. It just found a new reason to speed up the moment we stopped merely surviving our environment and started building it ourselves. Somewhere, right now, in someone being born today, evolution is still doing exactly what it's always done. Quietly, relentlessly, faster than ever. That's the story ancient DNA just told us. The only question left is what it'll write next.